Hello, this is Miss Melissa with the Jackson County Public Library in Ripley, West Virginia. I'm going to read you the book Stanley and the Class Pet by Barney Salzberg. This is the pet. As you can tell, it's a parrot. And the author says he wrote this for my wonderful editor, Joan Powers, the wizard behind the curtain. You like to tell stories to certain people. That's what he wanted to tell the story to Joan. Stanley and the Class Pet by Barney Salzberg. Stanley is sitting there reading a book called Hi, Hi, Birdie by Seymour Beeks. Looks like he's got a snack, drink, and some cookies. Most of the students in Mr. Winger's room had taken the class pet home for the weekend. Stanley Birdbaum dreamed of the day when it would be his turn. Each of the kids probably got to take it home for the weekend because there's nobody at school on Saturday and Sunday to feed the bird. Finally, one Friday, Mr. Winger chose Stanley. "Meet Figgy," Stanley said to his mother. "I'm not much of a bird fan," she replied. "Figgy is your responsibility." "Don't worry," said Stanley. "I'll take care of him." That's good that he's willing to do that, isn't it? At bedtime, Stanley read 7 of his favorite books to Figgy. "Get that bird out of your bed," said his mother. "We're having a sleepover," said Stanley. "He can sleep over there," she told him. See, he's got him underneath the blanket, reading with his flashlight. The next day, Larry Finchfeather came over. He and Stanley played with Figgy. Look, they're singing, they're playing music, and it looks like Figgy's singing. And here they're selling fresh lemonade. It says, "On sale today. Please buy some from us." Figgy probably likes being outside with them. Here they're doing a puppet show for Figgy. One of them's got an elephant puppet, and one of them's got what looks like a dinosaur puppet. And then they put Figgy in a wagon and tied it to the bike, and he's riding, and the sign says Stanley and Larry and Figgy. Looks like they're having lots of fun. Larry told Stanley that Figgy looked like he could use some exercise. "We should let him out." "Now that," said Stanley, "does not sound like a great idea." I don't think so either. Usually if an animal's in a cage, it's supposed to stay in one. "Come on," said Larry. "Figgy's been cooped up in a cage. He's a bird with wings. He isn't supposed to sit around all day. Figgy needs to fly." "I still don't think that sounds like such a great idea," said Stanley. "You worry too much," said Larry. What do you think? Larry Finchfeather counted as Stanley unlatched the door to the cage. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. "Take off!" And when he unlatched the door, Figgy just sat there. Wonder what Figgy's thinking now. The bedroom door opened. "Snack time!" announced Stanley's mother. Figgy flew from his cage and right out of Stanley's room. Oh my goodness. Figgy had just been sitting there behaving. Look, Stanley's poor mother dropped all the cookies. Wonder what will happen now. Stanley and Larry ran into the living room just in time to see Figgy fly through an open window, up into the air and out of sight. Oh my goodness, this is terrible, isn't it? "You probably shouldn't have opened the cage," said Larry. "I told you I didn't think it was such a great idea," said Stanley. "Then you probably shouldn't have listened to me," said Larry. "I have to go home now. I can't believe I just lost the class pet, Stanley thought. Poor bird. Figgy, he called. Figgy! You can come home now, please? There was no sign of him anywhere. Look, he's walking up and down the street looking. There's no Figgy in any of the trees. Larry Finchfeather made me lose Figgy, Stanley complained to his mother when he got home. Well, whose responsibility was it to take care of Figgy? She asked. It was his idea to let him out. Did you say no? Asked his mother. Not exactly, said Stanley. Could we move to New Zealand? That's pretty far away. That's probably why I wanted to move there. He called Polly, Otis, Anita, and William. Stanley hoped it would be easier to face everyone at school if a few of his friends knew he had lost the class pet. Look how sad he looks in both pictures. Larry Finchfeather was waiting for Stanley the next morning. I probably shouldn't have begged you to let Figgy fly, said Larry. I should have said no, said Stanley. Stanley told Mr. Winger he was sorry he had let Figgy fly away. Larry apologized and said it was all his idea. I know how hard it must be for both of you to tell me this, said Mr. Winger. That was really good of them to tell the truth to their teacher, wasn't it? Mr. Winger decided that the students should talk about the things they would miss about Figgy. I'll miss the way he hardly ever blinked his eyes, said Stanley. I'll miss the noises he made in math class, said Larry. It sounds like we need to find a new class pet, said Mr. Winger. Any ideas? How about one that swims, said Polly. Or one that has a shell, said Otis. One that slithers, said Anita. One that hops, said William. We could have 4 class pets, said Larry. Now that, said Stanley, sounds like a great idea. Look, she's got the one that swims. She's got a fish, right. He's got one with a shell. He's got a turtle, right. She's got one that slithers. It's a snake, right. And he's got one that hops. It's a frog, right. On the last page, it shows Figgy in a tree with 2 other birds living happily out in the world. Barney Salzberg, who's the author and illustrator, has done 2 other books about Stanley Birnbaum. This Stanley title was inspired, he says, by something that happened in his own childhood when the class pet he took home for the weekend disappeared. It can be very hard to share that kind of news with the whole class, he says. I was very happy when Stanley's fellow students found a way to give this story a happy ending. Barney Salzberg lives in Los Angeles with his wife and 2 children. And that is the story of Stanley and the class pet. So who knows, if you ever see a parrot outside, maybe it's Stanley's pet, Figgy. Thank you for stopping here at the library. See you later. Bye-bye.